How easy is it to sit by and watch someone suffer? I would think that most of us would say it isn't. We know that we are designed at our core to help others. It's what makes a community a community. When our refugee team came together, one of the marketing people from the community who got involved summed it up really well. She created a website for our refugee team, and the address was Holy Cross Helps. It was a way for us to fundraise and to bring people together and to make it clear that our mission, our goal, is to help. Which is why this story at times offends me so much. How can a rich person feast sumptuously while someone else suffers? It seems so foreign to us, and in many ways, horrific. We've already heard the stories of the Good Samaritan and the prodigal. We know how we are to treat others, that we are to treat them well, no matter who they are or what they've done. Even to treat them well, if we think that treating them well is better than they deserve to be treated. The word deserve in English appears 50 times in the NRSV, the translation that we read most often from in worship. It's used mostly in the context of either punishment or death. Did someone deserve to be punished? Did they deserve to die? And to put it in the context of today's reading, did Lazarus deserve to be covered with sores? Did the rich man deserve to be tormented in hell by flames? Did the 5 brothers of the rich man deserve to not be warned of their probable fate? In order to answer those questions about judgment, if someone deserves to be in a situation that they're in, we need to be clear about how we are judging things, how we're judging the person and the situation. Now we know that it isn't our place to judge. This from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10. For all of us must appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each may receive recompense for what has been done in the body, whether good or evil. It is not us who judges. It is God, it is Christ. But yet, we do judge others based on what they say, based on what they do. It is a natural and very human part of us. If we were to reframe judgment with an example today, I would suggest this one might work. If a person refuses to wear a mask, refuses to physically distance themselves from others, refuses to wash their hands regularly, refuses to stay home unless absolutely necessary to go out, then we judge that they deserve to be infected with COVID-19. If we hear that someone did all of those things right, wore a mask, distanced themselves from others, sanitized their hands regularly, didn't go out unless needed. Do we judge that they did not deserve to be infected? And if we go back to today's story and look at the 5 brothers again, do they deserve to not be warned? Or is Abraham merely stating a fact? We may read it as a judgment, but it may not have been so. It may have just been a statement of reality. Because this is what Abraham says. If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced even if someone rises from the dead. It's not necessarily judgment. It could be simple truth. Either way, we know that judgment isn't our place, even if we do fall into it from time to time. And that ultimately it is God who will judge, based on what we know from 2 Corinthians before. But there's another part of this reading that I struggle with. And that comes from the agony and torment of the rich man when he's in Hades. We often see that as some sort of divine punishment for ignoring the plight of another. And yet we believe in a God who is love. Believe in a God who wants to express that love to the world. So do we believe then that God sentences certain people to agony and torment because somehow they deserve it? How is that consistent with the idea that God is love? Well, we're getting to the end of our season of purpose. We've got one more week in Lent, and then Palm Sunday comes very quickly. As we read stories like this one, may we do so ever questioning from the viewpoint of Jesus' purpose of coming into the world. In a few short weeks, we will know that God's love is greater than any suffering or torment. That God's love will overcome any barrier or chasm between peoples. And that God's love in our lives compels us to help others. And for that love that is God, we give thanks today.